excuse me. I know my voice is normally deep, but I'm a little under the weather, and so it's even deeper today. And so thanks for bearing with me on that. If you haven't already, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel, and that'll also give you, subscribing will give you the ability to comment, and would love your comments and questions, and I'll be glad to engage with those at the end of the time today on the live. But for those that may be new, and if you're watching the recording, know that I encourage you, type your questions into, and I'll continue to engage with the chat throughout the week, and I'll address those questions next week. I do this each week, same time at 9 a.m. U.S. Chicago time. And so thanks so much for joining, and thanks so much for those who've joined week after week. For those that may be new, I'm Tim Fortescue, a IFS trained practitioner, and just really, my life has been changed by the model of internal family systems, and I'm grateful to share that with others. You can find more about me on my website, faithfullygrowing.com. And then also, just want to promote two things. One is the Faithfully Growing Community Annual Pass. Now, if you go to my website, you can join the Faithfully Growing Community, and that is for a monthly for $9. But the annual pass is $108, which is for the whole year, which is still $9 a month. And I have the doors open for that right now. And it gives you a weekly drop-in instead of a monthly drop-in, and a couple other extra resources. And you get a 7-day free trial. And so the link to join that is in the notes to this video, but it's faithfullygrowing.com/annual pass. And then while you're on the website, if you are finding value in this channel and you can make a donation, you can click the donate tab on the website and donate there. And that just helps me do things like this, and it helps me keep IFS accessible to more people, which is another one of my passions. And so grateful for any support that you have and that you can give. And you can always send me an email to tim@faithfullygrowing.com also if you have questions. But let me get into our content today. And today I'm going to talk just a bit about self-validation. And I know for me, last week we talked a bit about showing empathy to ourselves and to our own internal world, much like we do with that external world. And kind of on the same lines of that today, and thanks so much for that thumbs up. I love the interaction here as I go throughout our time. But just like showing empathy to ourselves, validating ourselves can be hard. And I know with me, I have religious parts that come up along the same lines of, wow, you're supposed to love others, validate God. But the idea of self-validation just seems to those parts, maybe they have questions about that. And maybe you have parts that come up around that, and just welcome them in. But the definition of self-validation is acknowledging and accepting our own feelings, what we would call parts in IFS, and experiences, or those trailheads, without needing external approval. We can get advice, we can be humble, and we're all in this together on a human level, so there is a place to bounce things off of others. But I'm learning too that I can trust myself more. And I hope that you can glean some from that too. So as we go throughout our meditation today, I'm gonna have you check in with parts that may be challenged a bit from being like validating themselves in that internal process. And so maybe think about how often do you seek external validation, and just reflect on that. And I know I'm 44 now, and it's until the last few years that I began to trust myself more, or begun, like even with my Southern Appalachian upbringing. If I mess up my vocabulary in front of the world, it's okay. We're all doing the best that we can. And so check in, and just as we go through the meditation, notice the parts that maybe crave validation the most. Maybe it's that achiever part, or maybe it's that inner critic that may never admit it, but they may be looking for that. Or even some of the more vulnerable parts. They're exiled, they're wanting to be seen. And so be aware of them. And how can you provide some of that validation internally and just get your parts to trust maybe just a little bit more? And this is a practice that builds self-trust and builds trust with our parts over time, but we've got to begin somewhere. And recognizing and validating our own feelings can lead to greater inner peace. And it's okay to trust that there's something bigger at work too, because there is, whatever that is for you. And so let's just begin a process of practicing that self-validation. And maybe this is the first step of many for you. Maybe it's been a while that you've thought about this. And just know that you're enough, just as you are, that I'm enough. And we just want to be curious on this journey of self-discovery and compassion. So let's take a bit and just check in with our parts internally. Just find a comfortable position. You can close your eyes if that feels right for you. Take a few deep breaths to settle in. Just first begin by connecting with your body. What is supporting it? Notice the points of contact. Just take another breath or two to settle in at your own pace. Then begin to bring your attention inward and slowly scan through your body. Notice areas of tenseness, sensations. Just begin to notice your parts and acknowledge without judgment. These sensations are likely parts of you holding emotions or stories that they want to share. As you notice various parts arising, just check in and see where you're noticing. How do you know that they're present in or around your body? And just see if, as a whole, as you sense into those parts, how are you feeling toward them? And if there's resistance, it's likely other parts coming in. Just welcome them to the circle, or if they want to soften back and just witness, they're welcome to do that, but their feelings are valid. They don't have to be on board with all this, and maybe they need some attention now. Turn back to the part that you're noticing the most, and maybe it's a group of parts, maybe it's one part. See if you could just extend just a bit of compassion or curiosity. Some of these may be old friends, some may be newer friends. Just say hello. There's no need to fix or change anything. Just notice, and we're only going to be here a few minutes, not going deep. No agenda other than being curious. And just check in with those parts in that curiosity. And see if there are any parts that often seek validation from others more than maybe some of the other parts. Maybe there's a part that craves approval or reassurance from the outside world. And it may show up as a feeling of insecurity, self-doubt, the need to know that you're doing enough. Allow this part, or maybe it's a cluster of parts, to make itself known. There's no rush, and it's okay to take its time to show up. Maybe you don't sense this part, and that's okay too. Maybe you just need to be with the parts that have already surfaced. But if you get a sense of this part that seeks validation, take a moment to acknowledge it. It's always good to check in again and see how you're feeling toward it. Is it curiosity or is it resistance? If it's resistance, it's likely another part. And just see if that part could soften back, knowing that it can have attention at another time too. Then turn your attention back to the part or parts that really seek that validation from others. You might say, I see you. I'm here with you. See how the part responds. What does this part look or feel like? Does it have a shape, a color, a particular sensation in the body? Is there an emotion that it's carrying? Just be curious and open to whatever arises. And from that place of curiosity, if you can, even just a drop will do. Maybe ask, what do you need right now? What kind of validation are you seeking? And just notice any thoughts or images or emotions that arise in response. And just check in and see how this part is doing with this process. How is it feeling toward you? Then ask it if it'd be open to you sharing it some validation from who you are today. You're likely older than the age that this part thinks you are. So see if it'd be open to that. And if it is, just see if you offer it some validation from your core. You might say something like, I see your need for approval, and I want you to know that your feelings are valid. Or maybe you don't need anyone else to tell you that you're enough. You're worthy just as you are. And if it feels right, you can place a hand over your heart or wherever you feel the part is most present and offer it the warmth of your own reassurance. And imagine sending this part love and understanding, allowing it to feel heard and valued. Before we wrap up, just take a minute and just be with your internal world for just a bit. See if there's anything else. Just take a few deep breaths, allowing this exchange of validation to settle within you. Notice how it feels to validate your internal world. And being the one validating that inner team inside of you as a competent leader. And there's no need to rush or force anything. Just be with whatever arises, letting the experience unfold naturally, knowing that you can take more time in the future too. And before we wrap up for now, just thank all your parts for their courage in trusting you a little more and allowing you in. And let them know this doesn't have to be the last time. Maybe let them know when you can check in again. Just kind of see those trailheads or those triggering moments as an opportunity to talk with a client yesterday to hold a board meeting or to gather around the campfire. So we're going to get triggered. And those could be beautiful trailheads. Then when you're ready, you can gently start bringing your awareness back to your body. You can open your eyes if they were closed. Just take one last deep breath, and on the exhale, imagine releasing any tension or remaining energy that no longer serves you. And then just take this with you. Remember that you and I have the power to offer validation and compassion to ourselves, just as we would a loved one. You're enough. I'm enough. We're beloved human beings just as we are. And just see if you can take this practice with you. Thank you so much for joining me for this meditation. And now I have a few minutes that I'd be glad to take some questions if you have them. And you can always send me an email to tim@faithfullygrowing.com. And if this has been of value to you while you're on the website, faithfullygrowing.com, there's a donate button. I have a nonprofit aspect of my practice that helps keep IFS accessible to all, helps me to do things like this, and so grateful for any donations. And then finally, and if you have questions, chime in. I encourage you right now. I have the doors open for the Faithfully Growing Community Annual Pass. It's $108 for a whole year, and it gives you a weekly drop in, one for practitioners on Tuesdays, like today, and then for everyone on Thursdays. And you get a library of IFS tutorials, FAQs, worksheets, resources that you can use in your own parts work journey. And you get a 7-day free trial. And so if you go to faithfullygrowing.com/annual pass, you can check that out. And let me know if you have questions. And if you go to my website, don't join where it says join the Faithfully Growing community, because that's for a $9 a month membership that gives you a monthly drop in. But doors are open now for this annual pass that gives you a few more perks. And so faithfullygrowing.com/annual pass. And email me, tim@faithfullygrowing.com, if you have questions. Email me too if you're unable to. I have it set where you have to subscribe to the channel for 5 minutes before you can chat. That just allows more control of the chat. And so if you're having problems commenting, send me an email too. And be sure to like and subscribe. If you subscribe now, you'll be able to chat next time. But so grateful for this community. Reach out if you need to, and take care.